might remember a few years back there was a news story where Hulk Hogan had a sex tape leaked by Gawker, and there was this lawsuit that completely destroyed the company. Gawker's out of business now because of this lawsuit. At the time, it didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary, but after a while, it became clear that the lawsuit from Hulk Hogan was funded by billionaire Peter Thiel. It was a real-life conspiracy. Peter Thiel had created this conspiracy to take down Gawker, because back when Gawker first started, they exposed Peter Thiel, they outed him for being gay. And on the surface, that seems like something that wouldn't happen. But I just read this book called Conspiracy by Ryan Holiday. It is Peter Thiel, Hulk Hogan, Gawker, and the Anatomy of Intrigue. And I wanted to share my 3 main takeaways. So let's jump into it. Number 1 is conspiracies are real. This is something Ryan wanted to really hammer home in the book. He talks about conspiracy theories a little bit, like the moon landing hoax, and how that's not a real conspiracy, and how in real conspiracies, the word almost always gets out because anytime there's 3 or 4 people talking, somebody's gonna leak something to their wife or something's gonna get out. So by revealing a real conspiracy that happened, hopefully he can disprove most of these fake conspiracy theories. And that was what was so interesting about this book. This conspiracy was real. Peter Thiel was mad at Gawker, and so used his billions of dollars. He's one of the founders of PayPal and one of the early investors in Facebook. Used that money to fund a lawsuit. He hired lawyers that would search through every potential case. So anytime Gawker would publish a story that might be slightly off or might be breaking a law, Peter Thiel's lawyer would reach out to them as somebody else. They wouldn't say they were affiliated with Peter Thiel, and would fund that lawsuit. It's every business owner's worst nightmare. You offend a billionaire and then he comes after you with all of his resources. Which brings us to point 2, unbeatable enemies are beatable. Peter Thiel was burned and doubled down. Gawker relied on this business model of releasing and publishing everything they possibly could, and then making the process of suing them so difficult that nobody would do it. By the time Peter Thiel and his lawyers and Hulk Hogan got to the courtroom, it was discovered that they were the only people to actually file a lawsuit against Gawker, even though in the past Gawker had made a lot of similar mistakes, leaking sex tapes. They leaked video of a woman through a keyhole that used to work at ESPN, where you could see her changing. They had rumors of people being gay. They outed other people, not just Peter Thiel. People that were celebrities and media elites, and yet nobody had sued them because of the way this system was set up. However, with Peter Thiel, he had just enough of a drive and basically unlimited resources. Billions of dollars is way more than enough to take down a company. I think it ended up costing him like $20 million. So even though Gawker was this seemingly unbeatable force with a legal team that would aggressively send cease and desists, all it took was one person actively challenging that system to bring them to court and to bring Gawker down. The third takeaway is deliver value to unlock new projects. That might sound weird in a video about conspiracies, but there's another player here. It wasn't just Gawker and Hulk Hogan and Peter Thiel working alone. There was this other guy in the book called Mr. A. No last name, no first name given. And according to the book Conspiracy, the reason Peter Thiel went after Gawker, after just talking about it for years and years, was because he was at a dinner with this guy named Mr. A. And Mr. A was this young dude who convinced Peter Thiel that he could actually take down this company. Ryan Holiday calls people like Mr. A professional sons, and it's an interesting concept. He means that they're people that are able to tie themselves to older people that have resources to fulfill those old people's goals in order to get those resources for themselves. Lyndon Johnson is another example of a professional son, how he was able to trade up in the Senate and all the way to the presidency just by helping more powerful people than him. And I'm sure Ryan Holiday sees himself in the Mr. A character as well. I know I did in terms of his career path, going from director of marketing at American Apparel to this widely published author. But Peter Thiel had completely written off suing Gawker until Mr. A sat down with him at dinner and basically hit all the right notes. He told Peter Thiel it was possible. He promised to do all the work, and he was willing to get started for a fairly low salary. So all Thiel had to do is say yes. And Mr. A coordinated with the lawyers. He found the legal precedent. He met with the lawyers weekly. And all Thiel had to do was the occasional phone call with Mr. A. So this was a fully outsourced capitalist operation. And if you read this book, Mr. A is clearly the most interesting character here. How he was able to go from just a college student to helping this billionaire. And I assume now he's deep inside the Thiel organization, which is why they wanted to anonymize his entire identity. So check that book out, Conspiracy by Ryan Holiday. There's a link down in the description below. If you found this valuable, I'd love if you would share this video with a friend or two. We're trying to hit 100,000 subs this year, and every share counts. Also, if you run an agency and you want the exact contract we use to close business, that link's down in the description as well. It cost us about $1,000 to put together, and you get it for free. Thanks for watching.